So I need to know if we have a quorum.
Yeah, just underneath.
Can I just ask, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Barely.
Barely?
Yeah, you're barely coming through.
Okay,
Oh, that's fine.
okay, thank you.
That's good. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 18th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tuxedo Park. Madam Clerk Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Mayor Citron,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lindsay,
Present?
Trustee Brooke,
Present.
Trustee Shara,
Present via Zoom.
thank you, and Trustee Turner.
Present via Zoom as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can we all rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all. Please be seated. The first matter on the calendar today is an administrative hearing. Let me explain what that is. The village recently passed a landscaper licensing law, and as part of that law, we required any landscaper or contractor working in the landscaping business to sign an application and essentially agree that they would abide by certain provisions in the code. And as part of that licensing agreement, they were notified that if they should violate any one of the specific provisions in the code that are listed in the agreement, that their license to do business in the village would be subject to revocation or suspension. Sometime perhaps in July, a complaint was made regarding work that was done up on Summit Road. An investigation was conducted. A notice of violation was served on the contractor by the name of S&B Curdy Group, and we are here tonight to conduct an administrative hearing with respect to the status of their license. This is an administrative hearing. It is not a court proceeding. The only remedy for the Board of Trustees, should they find that there's a violation, is either a suspension of the license for a period of time, the revocation of the license on a permanent basis, or theoretically a letter of caution or a letter of warning. This is the first administrative hearing being held pursuant to the landscaper licensing law. It's almost a quasi-judicial proceeding, but not quite. Representatives of S&B Curdy are here today. They will have an opportunity to present their position with respect to the violations alleged. And at this point, they're only alleged. The burden is on the village to prove those violations by a preponderance of the evidence, as well as to meet certain requirements that allow us to proceed with this matter. So I would invite the land use and building inspector to take the chair to my right. And I would invite any of the representatives that you choose from S&B Curdy Group to take the chair to my left.
Us to choose or you choose?
You choose. No, you pick your own representative to take the chair. And if you would identify yourself for the record.
Name is Jeff Trezza. I'm the general manager of Curdy Group.
Thank you very much. Have a seat.
Okay.
So the way this hearing proceeds, as I said, it's quasi-judicial, is I will swear in the building inspector, John Ledwith. I will put some questions to him with respect to any findings he made after an investigation he conducted following the complaint, and we will take it from there. So John, would you rise, please? Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please have a seat. It's my understanding, John, that at some time in May of 2024, you received a complaint with respect to a premises up on Summit Road.
I did.
Okay, and what was the address?
126 Summit Road.
And upon receiving that complaint, did you conduct an investigation?
Yes, I did.
And could you tell us what day did you conduct that investigation?
May 6th,
And what day of the week was that?
Thursday.
May 6th?
I think it was a Thursday. Sorry, to double check
Check your
that.
calendar. I think it was a Monday.
I believe the inspection was done on Thursday after I got in touch with the contractor.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes,
And did you go up to the property?
I did.
And did you make any findings with respect to the complaint that you had received?
Yes, I found 9 trees that were cut and 5 trees that were topped.
Okay, and did you take photographs of the same?
I did.
And have you provided the respondent, S&B Curdy Group, with copies of those photographs as well as a copy of your investigative report?
I have.
Now, this landscaper licensing law required the contractor to sign an application,
Yes.
essentially agreeing to the terms of the licensure. So my next question to you as a threshold matter is, what was the date that S&B Curdy submitted their landscaper license?
May 2nd.
Now, of course, it only makes sense that if the violations occurred before the landscaper license agreement was signed, then they would not be subject to a revocation or suspension of their license. So, John, let me ask you this pointed question. Do you have an opinion that you hold with a reasonable degree of certainty based upon your investigation as to whether the acts of topping the trees or cutting the trees by S&B Curdy took place before or after the date of May 2nd when they signed the licensing agreement?
There was really only one date that this work could have happened between my investigation and their signing of their license. And I don't think the work could have all occurred on that one day.
So your opinion is that you cannot reach a conclusion as to whether, based on your investigation, that work that was done by S&B Curdy at the address on Summit Road was done on the day of or after that landscaper licensing agreement was signed?
Correct.
Okay. From my perspective as mayor, you cannot, as a matter of due process, punish a contractor for work it did before it signed an agreement to abide by the rules. And based on the fact that John, as the representative of the village, is unable to reach a conclusion that the work that was done that violates the code was done after the agreement was signed, at this point in time, as the hearing officer, subject to the agreement of the Board of Trustees, I would make a motion to dismiss that notice of violation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor of dismissing this notice of violation based on the fact that the village cannot make out a prima facie case that the work that was done on the property on Summit Road was done after the landscaper licensing agreement was signed by S&B Curdy Group. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry to put you out, but we had to go through this proceeding. I would just note for the record that this is sort of a warning that we insist that you abide by the agreement, that those terms in the agreement and those code sections that have been provided to you under the agreement, which you signed, must be adhered to. And if we get a report, whether it's, I'm not saying it'll be you guys, could be another contractor, John will investigate and the outcome may be different than it was tonight. So thank you for coming and you're all excused. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, as for mayor's comments, I'm only going to talk on one subject. As most of you are probably aware, Verizon Wireless has made a proposal to erect a cell tower in the vicinity of the water towers off Ridge Road. And because this is such a substantial issue facing the village, I thought it was necessary and important that the elements of that proposal be provided to each and every resident via email, which we did earlier this month. Hopefully everybody received it, as well as post it on the village website, which it is. And because this is such an important issue, I scheduled a special board meeting for Monday, September 30th, at which time Verizon will present to the public, those on Zoom and those in person, its proposal, and then we'll be open to answering all questions and hearing all comments from all interested residents. The reason I'm making this statement now is because I suspect that there are people who are here tonight who wish to comment on the proposal to the extent, and only to the extent, that they've received documentation through my office with respect to that proposal. I can tell you that that documentation will be supplemented on September 30th by Verizon. But since I believe that every resident should have the opportunity to make public comment about any issue at a Board of Trustees meeting, and I've said that numerous times, even though the Verizon Wireless is not on the agenda, I will certainly allow you to make whatever comment you believe is necessary and appropriate. And I would invite you to return to make the same or additional comments at the September 30th meeting, when the entire community will be focused on the issue of the cell tower. Now, hopefully, those of you who wish to make comments will make those comments within the limited period of time generally provided, which is 3 minutes. If, and I don't see all that many people here, the comments become a little bit too extensive, I'm going to have to cut it off unless it relates to a matter other than the Verizon Wireless proposal. But at this point in time, we're willing to listen to what you have to say, but we will not engage. We will not have a discussion. We will not respond to your comments. That will be reserved for the meeting of Monday, September 30th. So with that being said, I'll turn to the Deputy Mayor and ask her whether she has any comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on the Capital Planning Committee work that has been going on. We meet most Mondays. And Josh Scherer and I, Joanne Hanson is the chair, Gardner Hempel, and Tom Birmingham. So we have identified projects for the BOT to consider. We want to get these projects underway. I am working with our bond counsel at Harris Beach and our underwriters at Munistat to prepare a bond resolution for the BOT for hopefully a special meeting that can be arranged before our next regular meeting. After the resolution is passed, we will then start to structure the bonds. So that's that. Jeff Voss, Chris Gow, and I met to look at the invasive vines that are strangling the trees and shrubbery along the causeway and along Westlake Road. So Jeff can probably go into more detail, but we'll start that work on Monday.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Trustee Brooke, any opening comments?
Nope.
Trustee Scherer, any opening comments?
None from me.
Trustee Turner, any opening comments?
None from me. Thanks.
All right, fine. Then we open the floor to the public. And the good news, I understand, is that that mic at that podium is now working, and it won't be necessary for anybody to have to speak immediately in front of the bench. So is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on any topic they believe is relevant for a period of 3 minutes? Ms. Hempel, you're recognized.
Do I need to turn this on?
No.
Think it works. I'm Chirian Hempel, 14 Butternut Road. I'd like to talk a little bit about Tuxedo Park's history, which I know a little bit about, so as to provide a historical perspective and maybe suggest some homework as we all prepare to listen to Verizon's proposal on the 30th of September. I have 3 points to make. Firstly, the entire village of Tuxedo Park is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and 2 houses adjacent to the water tower are historic structures mentioned specifically in the 1980 National Register Survey. Because Verizon is a Federal Communications Commission FCC licensee, the review procedure to establish a cell tower in a National Register site would, I believe, trigger federal agency review of the historical impact under the National Historic Preservation Act, Section 106, and an environmental assessment review under the National Environmental Policy Act. The proposal would further need to be reviewed by local preservation bodies, which in our case are the Board of Architectural Review, Planning Board, and Board of Zoning Appeal, because the proposed tower, as it stands, would violate every existing village law on ridgeline construction, setback, height, material, etc., or put in place to safeguard our listing on the National Register. This lengthy review process will likely create acrimonious divisions in the village, which the mayor, supported by all the trustees, have pledged to avoid. My second point is many communities with historical districts have successfully adopted a distributed wireless technology using, I think they're called repeaters, instead of a tall mono tower, so that they can preserve their historical character. So that begs the question of why Verizon is not proposing this solution. Many such same historical communities, and yes, including the town of Tuxedo, as Michelle Lindsay knows, have chosen to forge a community consensus about wireless communications technology by researching and then enacting local telecoms codes to address critical issues ranging from safety standards, siting, equipment, complementarity with existing communication services, environmental impact, aesthetic impact, and more. They know that entertaining any wireless proposal from a provider in the absence of a local law may have many serious pitfalls. For example, what if the provider asks to increase the height of the tower to accommodate the next generation of technology, or when another provider, let's say an AT&T or T-Mobile, asks to install their own towers? For the reasons that I've stated, and to follow the good examples of other historical communities, I'd like to propose or suggest to the Board of Trustees to maybe consider declaring now a moratorium on cell towers, organize a task force to research the best telecom solutions tailored to the specific service needs of our village, and at the same time preserve the historical character and landscape that earned us our listing on the National Register, and then put in place a well thought out, comprehensive wireless telecommunications law. Last thing I'd just like to say, this issue of wireless communications is not about politics. It's all about the community's well-being. And I hope that the Board of Trustees will lead the effort to find the best solution for every resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hempel. Anybody else in the room wish to speak at this time? Professor Hayes, would you take the podium?
I'm up here now, so I'm close enough to
Okay.
these. Is that all right? And I can.
If they won't be able to hear,
No,
they won't be able to hear.
All right.
The sensitivity. of both
I mean, we heard him, but it's fine.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll speak from back here. I'd like to speak just for a few minutes as chair of the Climate Smart Community Task Force for the Village of Tuxedo Park. It's come to my attention that a number of people in the village have decided to opt out of community choice aggregation, which I find very, very disappointing. And I think it's a very bad decision for them to make for the following reasons. The village board has made a commitment to reduce the greenhouse gases emitted by this community by 40% by the end of the decade. That's a big number. And the sources of our greenhouse gases are primarily three: the fuel we burn to heat our houses, the fuel we burn in our automobiles and trucks, and the fuel that is burned to produce the electricity which we use. The latter amounts to about 20% of our total greenhouse gas emissions. Community choice aggregation, if we all get together, would reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by on the order of 18 to 20%. So this is something that is easy And it's by far the cheapest of the other three things. It costs money to buy an electric car or a hybrid. It costs money to replace your fuel oil burner with a heat pump. And to pay a couple cents more per kilowatt hour for your electricity is a very, very small price to pay for a 18 to 20% reduction of our greenhouse gases. This is something that we really need to do. Global warming is continuing. We're already feeling the effects, and they will only get worse. There are communities across the state, hundreds of communities across the state, which are doing this, and together we can make a big difference. Many of these communities are far less affluent than ours. And this community should be a leader in this respect, and we should all get on board with this. As a paleoclimatologist, I can tell you something that may be of interest. There was a time 40 million years ago when volcanic eruptions put a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The warming that occurred was substantial. Extinctions occurred as a consequence. But we can trace that in deep sea cores, and we can also trace the decline of that atmospheric CO2 as the ocean gradually took it out of the atmosphere and put it back into the Earth's crust. You might wonder how long it took the ocean to take that out. 100,000 years. So every time we put another ton of CO2 into the atmosphere, the natural effect, or the natural process that would take it out is very, very slow. So we already put in too much. And the point now is we're starting late, but the point now is to act as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Anyone else in the room have public comment? Yes, Ms. Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Molly Chenari and I live on 94 Pine Hill Road. I'm here today as a concerned resident and most importantly, as a mother, to urge you all to please reconsider the proposed cell tower plan. This tower will be placed directly over the village's water supply, which is just 50 feet from my property and 100 feet from the closest structure where my children play every day. If it were to fall, it could severely damage our home and put my whole family at risk. And what about the water tanks? What would happen if they were severely damaged? How long would the village be without drinking water, and how many homes would flood on Ridge, Pine, and Pepperidge roads? Typically, there's a 2 times tower height fall zone surrounding monopoles for these exact reasons. And then there's the issue of the frequency signal strength. The tower is designed to send strong signals across the park and will be in operation 24/7. No one knows what health effects that might have on all of us, as it sits over our drinking water and will be pointed directly at my family's bedrooms. It is your duty as trustees to protect the well-being of all residents and not sacrifice a few for the convenience of others. I want to make this next point very clear. We live and work here full-time, and we are very supportive of improved cell service, but we all deserve a solution that doesn't jeopardize our health and safety. There are better, more effective distributed solutions that have been successfully used in historic areas like Tuxedo Park, and we deserve to have all of the options presented to us. My husband Matthew was the chair of the cell committee last year and tried to get traction with all 3 carriers, but they all responded in the same way. End quote. There are only 330 homes in Tuxedo Park and the service there is sufficient. This year, Tuxedo Reserve has broken ground and Verizon is conveniently proposing to place a tower at the property closest to it to service that development at the expense of our residents. They are proposing this location because the town of Tuxedo has sophisticated and comprehensive laws governing these types of projects, and the village shockingly has none. And with the resignation of the newly appointed chairman, the cell phone committee has been disbanded. We cannot evaluate this proposal blindly. It is the trustees' duty to protect the historic character of this village, just as the town of Tuxedo has with their laws. I strongly urge you all to please put in a moratorium for this issue for 1 year on telecommunications development. This pause will allow us the opportunity to explore all options and give the trustees time to implement rules that protect our residents, and we can find an optimal solution. Deputy Mayor Lindsay has invaluable experience on this topic as she served as a town trustee while their codes were being developed. Lastly, as you may have noticed, I have my children here with me today because they are the ones who will be most impacted by your decision. This is a relatively new technology, 5G, and it does not have sufficient medical research. And I refuse to let my children become subjects of a future health study. I ask you to think carefully about the future of Tuxedo Park. Let's not rush into a decision that could have irreversible consequences. Establish a moratorium, reinstate a committee, and present the residents with every option available. Thank you.
I just have one response unrelated to the substance. The committee still exists. It consists of trustee Turner, Chris Cernich from Westlake Road, and myself. That's the only comment I have in response to what you said tonight. Anybody else like to speak? Mr. Mahan.
Not surprisingly, because I'm Christopher Mahan, I live at 81 Ridge Road. The Tenari's is 50 feet away. Our property is 86 feet away from a 110-foot tower that is being proposed. In doing our research, I was frankly shocked that a village as sophisticated and historic as Tuxedo doesn't have rules related to telecommunications and the proper placement of telecommunications devices. We should have better cell service. And I think there are solutions that are available that are much more forward-looking for cell service for our village. We shouldn't adopt any solution, from my perspective, until we have a thoughtful review of all the options, but more importantly, a set of rules and regulations for what is appropriate in our village, consistent with almost every other evolved community in New York State, including the town of Tuxedo. It was quite surprising for me when I did my research that the town of Tuxedo is more advanced than the village of Tuxedo Park on this issue. In the research that I've done, including Matt and I have done, they were actually, the people we talked to were shocked and kind of giggled when they heard a town like us was putting up a monopole because it's so outdated from a technological evolution. And most of the evolutions are expected on any of the literature that has been evolved to be outdated, and distributed solutions are much more modern, and as things evolve, much more able to evolve and adapt with them. And soon we'll have other forms of satellite and other service that are available. But the right answer for this community should be that we make a thoughtful and informed, both legislative set of rules. We have lots of rules here. We have rules on Ridgeline. We have rules on how you renovate your homes. We have rules on contractors, as we saw today. But we don't have any rules on telecommunications devices. We haven't thought through that. We haven't hired proper experts to go through. And we seem to be rushing to judgment on something that appears to be free. It's not going to be a free good for the village that's being put for the benefit of Tuxedo Park. And we should have a public review of what the right regulations are for Tuxedo. We should have a public review of all the options that are available and find out what would be best and what is most forward-looking and most constructive for all residents. And we shouldn't rush to judgment on an issue that will irreparably impair the visual and once you put a monopole up, it never comes down. And rush to judgment on a solution that is by any of the experts that we have talked to, a backwards looking, not a forwards looking solution. I would also say that based on the 7 or 8 examples of other communities' regulations, a monopole cell tower in that location, as close as it is to the homes that is there, would not be permitted on any of the reviews that I have seen of other regulation. And the idea that we would put something in our community that would violate the standards that almost every other community would adopt when doing a thoughtful review, I think is not something that I think we're better than that. And I think we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. So, and obviously we'll be here on the 30th.
Thank you, Mr. Mahan. Anybody else in the room have public comment on any subject? Okay, how about on Zoom? Anybody wish to comment on Zoom on any subject? I don't see any hands up. Last chance, there is a public comment at the end of the meeting,
I'd like to make one comment,
certainly.
which is I welcome these comments. Understand that we are very open to receiving suggestions about how a repeater might work, what other communities have done. Please pass that information to us. Second of all, there was a mailing that went around that had a picture of a cell tower that was anonymously done. As a matter of policy, given all the rumors and stuff here, if something is not signed, I believe it should be discarded and not paid attention to. We're a small enough community, names should be affixed to proposals. So from my perspective, I simply tore that up and threw it away. I'm not in.
I mean, Paul, I want to echo that and candidly, it created confusion. I think there were people out there that thought that that communication came from the trustees, which is not fair to us either. So I just want to echo and agree with your statement.
But having said that, we can go to the rest of the meeting.
Yep. Okay, well, that'll close public comment. And now we'll continue with reports, oral and written. The court report, number one, is written and attached. So we turn to our police chief, Alan Faust. Chief Faust, feel free to come up or stand at the podium, whatever is more convenient for you.
Good evening. Good evening. For the month of August, the police department responded to 166 calls. We had 1 traffic arrest, 2 property damage accidents. They issued 8 tickets, gave 6 warnings. Had 7 fire alarms, 3 burglar alarms, 2 medical calls, a couple assists to the town of Tuxedo. They patrolled 2,829 miles and had approximately 785 cars a day. Secondly, I would like to speak to you. Would you rather me speak to you now about this?
Sure, chief, go ahead.
I'm requesting the board to authorize the hiring of Jessica Wakefall as a part-time police officer following me completing her successful background check. Jessica transferred from the NYPD and she's currently a certified police officer with the town of Mount Hope. I think she's 23 years old. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Everybody that I've spoken to so far she's had raving reviews, and I think we need to become a little more diversified with our police department, and I think a female is a great start for that. So I'm requesting that tonight also, upon the completion of my background, to get some pre-authorization for it.
Thank you, chief.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Next, Superintendent Jeff Voss of the DPW.
For the past month, we've been doing a lot of pothole patching, Ridge Road, East Lake Road, Cliff Road, West Lake Road, Acoma Road, Turtle Point Road, Terrace Road, and South Gate. We installed asphalt gutters on Turtle Point Road as part of a drainage issue solution. A lot of weed whacking, various roads, I'm not gonna name them all, cut grass throughout the village. Created a blacktop storm gutter on Continental Road, cut back brush on Pawtucket Road. Removed a few fallen trees. We also removed the ropes and the rafts at the Weewa Park and for the season. And we worked on our asphalt paver. Water and sewer did various utility markouts. Worked on removing screens from one of the water filters at the water plant. We had a failure of one of the filters the aluminum screens had broken and we lost some of the media in the filter. Parts have been ordered. What was the lead time, John? 40 days or?
Yeah, 40 or 42 days.
So as soon as the parts come in, we'll get it back up and going.
Yeah, the resolution to purchase those is on our agenda tonight.
Obtained various water meter readings, actually started the third quarter meter readings. Then we had some old, outdated water meters that were sitting around the water plant for quite some time that I took to the scrap yard and ended up getting $700 and some for them. One water meter was repaired. There was one water meter installed. We had an electrical issue at the Mountain Farm Pump Station. We met with our electrician up there. A part has been ordered. Obtained meter readings, which I already said. Also, we obtained some water pressure readings up on Crow's Nest Road due to a pressure issue at the Villa Apartments. And I've been talking to the village engineer, Joe Zonville, to come up with a solution for that. We also flushed a fire hydrant up on Camp Comfort Road after a complaint of discolored water. Did maintenance on the air compressor at the water plant, changed the oil and filter. And at the sewer plant, we had to change some sludge valves and piping. And that's about it.
Two things, Jeff. First of all, did we have a water main break near club property, and how are we going to address that?
Yeah, so there is a service line leaking near the club parking lot that in order to shut everything down to be able to work on it, we're gonna have to go through a boil water. And so the plan is to send out a letter or put it on the internet tomorrow. We'll be doing it on Monday to give people advance notice. It's not a threat, so it's not gonna become a bigger issue between now and Monday, but that
Is the water shut off going to be limited to the surrounding homes, or do we have any idea how large the areas of the residents will be affected?
It's not just gonna be the surrounding homes.
Okay.
Some of the higher areas. And like I said, it's not a threat. That's why we didn't jump on it today, because of the boil water. We don't want to have that over the weekend.
Do you have an estimate as to how long water will be out of service?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm hoping, by, if we shut it off at 8 by 3:30, we should have everything back up.
Okay, we'll be sure to notify through Denise, everyone, that there's a possibility there won't be any water service on Monday. One other question, I'm gonna report to the board on a dispute we're having with the asphalt provider, the county paving company, Ward Pavement. I know you sent them a purchase order. Have you gotten any response?
I have not heard anything back from Ward Pavement, no.
Okay, I'd ask you, Jared, to take action as we discussed with respect to that issue.
Yes, will do.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Treasurer reports. Elizabeth.
Everything's attached to the record. I
Okay.
don't know if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the board? Any members of the board about the treasurer's reports? No?
No.
Seeing none, Deputy Mayor, Climate Smart update?
Yes, so on the agenda is the appointment of Claudia Bakhtiari for up to 30 hours to help us submit documentation for clean energy community certification. So we have completed 4 actions, which means that we will become certified. This is as a clean energy community. And upon certification, we will be awarded $15,000 to put towards clean energy upgrades. Claudia will also help us get to the point of achieving enough points where hopefully, if we can complete these actions in time, we will get an additional $50,000 from the state for clean energy upgrades. So that's on the agenda.
Yes.
And also on the agenda, the village is going to consider approval for community solar subscription for the smaller municipal accounts. Those would be all the electricity accounts with the exception of the water treatment plant. And the community solar program, which I encourage residents to enter into a subscription for savings on their electricity bill. And this also will help, as Professor Hayes said earlier, to help the state and the village achieve their climate mitigation goals, greenhouse gas emission goals. And I know it's a little confusing because there's the community choice aggregation program, which is actually the supply of electricity. The supply of electricity is 40% of your bill, your total bill. That can be combined with a subscription for community solar, which is credits, energy credits of 5% on your entire bill. So if you combine the community choice aggregation, as Professor Hayes is urging all of us to do, with the community solar program, which provides savings on 100% of your bill, that would be a very good step towards what our goals are. And I'll talk about a little bit more about the vote on the community solar later, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. So we've completed the report. So I make a motion, be it resolved that the board add all written reports to the permanent record. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Turner?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0, Elizabeth. Okay. Now we move on to approval of the meeting minutes of the last regular meeting of the board, August 21st, regular meeting. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes from August 21st, 2024. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. Any discussion?
No.
No? Everybody good? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Okay, now we move on to new business. As the chief said, he'd like to hire a female officer to join the force part-time. We've heard him describe her, and he believes that she would be a great asset to our community. So I'll make the following motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Jessica Wigfall as a part-time police officer, subject to a complete background check. Is that correct, Chief?
Correct.
Subject to a complete background check. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is emeritus dental and eye care insurance for the employees. Elizabeth, can you give us a brief summary of what that is and what we're going to be providing or have been providing to our employees?
It's a plan that we've had for many years, and it's like I said, it's a dental and vision care, and it's some of the employees have one company, and then others have this company. It's a small increase over last year. I'm not sure what else to say. It's like we've had it for many years. I've never heard any complaints from anybody about it.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the renewal of Emeritus Dental and Eye Care Insurance. The amount will increase from $67.08 for an employee and $179.56 for an employee and family to $69.76 for an employee, or a little $2.50, and $186.72 for an employee and family, or approximately $7. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, unanimous. Okay, item number 3 is approve association reserves agreement. This was presented last month. The Association Reserve is a firm that does capital evaluation. Joanne, are you on?
She was.
She was. Okay, I know I saw her there. Trustee,
Gardner.
I'm sorry,
Gardner's on.
Gardner, would you like to give it just a brief summary before we vote on this?
Yes, as presented last month, this is a firm that specializes in doing assessments of capital assets of communities, municipalities, and performs a very rigorous analysis of the inventory, prepares an inventory of the assets, their replacement cost, useful lives, which allows the trustees or anybody to do what if scenarios as to funding plans for meeting repair and replacement costs over the useful lives of these assets.
Okay. Thank you. I know we discussed it in great detail last meeting, and the Association Reserve provided some copies of some prior work they did. So I will make a motion, be it resolved to authorize the mayor to sign the reserve study proposal from Association Reserves for the total sum of $12,000 to be paid from budget line 1989.4 general government support. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Yeah. I'm sorry. Do I have it? Yeah, second by Trustee Scherer. We'll give him a line on the.
I didn't say anything, but that's
You
fine.
didn't?
I'll
That's
take it.
actually me. That's all right. You give it to Paul.
We'll give you a line in the minutes. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, folks? Yep. Great. Okay.
I'm sorry, who was the second on that?
Second was Trustee Scherer.
Shara, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, the deputy mayor discussed the appointment of Claudia Bakhtari as temporary assistant for Climate Smart Committee to continue with our grant application. And as she indicated, if we do all the paperwork, and there is a lot of paperwork, is that correct, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
There's a lot of paperwork. If we get this done, we're looking at a substantial grant
Mhm.
from the state, upwards of $40,000.
Well, if 15,000 to start,
Right.
and if we can complete the other actions, it could be it's up to 50,000 additional.
Okay, 50,000 additional. So Claudia has worked for the town. She has experience, and she's recommended. So I would make a motion, be it resolved to hire Claudia Bakhtari as a temporary assistant to work with the Climate Smart Committee in writing grant applications at an hourly rate of $20 an hour with a maximum of 30 hours. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Turner, aye?
Yep.
Okay. You gotta turn off the mute. All
I
right.
said aye before, but it's okay.
Okay. All right. The next item is approval for one-year subscription to Community Solar with Meadow Energy Project. The deputy mayor's explained that. It's a guaranteed savings to the village. Is that correct?
That is correct.
5% off our electricity bill for every facility that the village owns other than the water plant. And,
It's 5% of the energy credits.
right. And we'll discuss the water plant at the next
Yes,
meeting.
yes.
Because that requires a 3-year commitment and,
It's a more complicated contract. yes.
okay, all right. I'll make the motion be resolved to approve a 1-year subscription to Community Solar for the village with the Meadow Energy Project. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 5-0. We're moving right along. The next item is the Weewa Fishing Club is requesting at their expense to stock Weewa Lake. They do it every year. The guys and gals that belong to that club love to go out on their boats and fish. So it's no cost to the village, and anyone who's a member of the club, whether they live in the village or they live outside the village, can enjoy the experience of fishing on Weewa Lake. So I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? Be it resolved to permit the Weewa Fishing Club to stock Weewa Lake at their expense. Motion, I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the deputy mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous 5-0. Next item is to approve what has already been accomplished by the Pond and Lake Connection. Those of you may remember, it seems like such a long time ago, but in August, the Tuxedo Lake began to develop a greenish tinge, kind of looked a little like pea soup, especially at the south end of the lake. And we made contact with a company called the Pond and Lake Connection and asked them to provide algae treatment, essentially, because it was algae that was creating the pea soup look of the lake. They were very responsive. They came very quickly and they provided the service. And if you look at the lake now, based on the treatment that they did, it looks much better. And as the weather gets cooler, it'll no longer be an issue at all. So I would make a motion to approve the payment to the Pond and Lake Connection for the algae treatment of Tuxedo Lake. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. Any discussion on this? Again, the work was already done. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item is the Board of Architecture Review has requested permission from the board and funding to hire an arborist in the event they want to get a second opinion on any projects that may come before them by applicants. The cost of this arborist for a second opinion would be incurred by the village. It would not be passed on to the applicant. And it's a limited request. It involves an arborist who they received a recommendation from, and the arborist charges $125 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. So that's $500, which includes, of course, visit to the property, as well as consultations on any matter for the 4 hours and the preparation of a report. So it's my recommendation that we authorize 8 hours. 4 times 125 is $500, and then for another project, another $500. And this request is being made by the Board of Architecture Review. So let me make the motion. We can talk about it. Be it resolved that we grant permission for the Board of Architectural Review to hire an independent arborist on an as-needed basis at the rate of $125 an hour for a maximum of 8 hours. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion?
I just think it should be that applicants should be made aware however we let them know what the process is for approvals for tree removal or whatever it is they want to do with their trees, just so it's known up front, because otherwise people might say, I've given you my arborist report, and why isn't that good enough? So can we add that to the process guidelines?
Well, that would be the guidelines of the bar.
Right,
It
right,
would-
or we could
yeah.
suggest they do
We
that.
we could suggest that the
Yeah,
bar.
I think Michelle's got a great suggestion. I think there's some confusion about that, and understandably so. So I think it's a good suggestion.
So we'll include a recommendation to the bar that they add to their guidelines what the deputy mayor suggested, and we'll put it in a letter to them. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yep.
Agreeable?
Yeah, it's good. The one thing I'd say to the bar is rather than having a piecemeal, I'd love to get a proposal of what they need. There's been talk about whether they have an architect, to consult on projects and so on. So we have a new chairman of the bar. I guess if there are initiatives they want, we should start that dialogue and tell us what it is.
Okay.
So Paul, I want to echo Paul's comment, right? Because that's actually the reaction I kind of had too, is that we're getting an arborist for a Board of Architectural Review. Most of the members aren't architects, so, and I believe in the past, the board did have a pro bono architect who dedicated some time to help them. If we could get one to do it for free, I think that'd be great again.
All right, well, I'll include that in the letter that we recommend that they seek out an architect, preferably for free, and if not, the board will consider a retainer for that architect as needed. Anybody have an issue?
Yeah, no, I'm fully supportive of, obviously. I think the other piece is there are regulations that the bar functions under, such as, not using currently available building materials that are widely available. There may have to be a project of revision of recommended revisions in the bar rules to make us a little more current with what's happening. So I think that's a general discussion with the BAR. So we're done. We're good.
Okay.
What budget line does that come out of? General government support?
Elizabeth, where would we take out a expert for
Well,
the?
there is a budget line for expenses related to the bar. It's something like 8040. I can't remember offhand what it is.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
I would put it to that.
Yeah.
All right, again, the motion's on the table. It was seconded by the deputy mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Everyone's on, okay, 5-0. All right. Next is the water filters that were spoken of by Jeff. We love, we're operating on one of two tanks because the filters broke down on one of the tanks. They're actually, the old filters are lying outside the water plant if you want to take a look at them for any particular reason. And of course, it's absolutely imperative that we have functioning filters for the water supply. So be it resolved to approve the purchase of water filters from West Tech in the amount of $23,458.55. I make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, next item is the GEI consultants. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on this. The GEI consultants who are contacting them is AJ Reyes. Every year, at least last year, they prepared a report. They called it a scorecard and summary memo for Tuxedo, Wewa, and Pond 3, where they essentially evaluate the condition of the water quality in the three water bodies. They look at the vegetation that's growing in the water bodies. And ordinarily, we would have addressed this issue back in May when the initial proposal was made for evaluation running May through November. Unfortunately, the proposal was emailed to the former mayor, and it never crossed my desk. It was addressed to me, and it was emailed to the former mayor. And since this is my first year in office, I didn't expect such a proposal to come across my desk. So we met with AJ Reyes. That would have been Trustee Scherer and Professor Hayes and I. And we said, well, we're going to get the next report, right? For 2024. And that was in August or July. And he said, you never signed the contract. And then we investigated and we found that, well, you sent the contract to the former mayor whose address is no longer any good. So we asked him for we asked him to provide an estimate to do the work in September, October, and November, and whether that would be sufficient. He said yes. So that's what we're considering tonight is the Lake Management Service Water Quality Study for 3 months, September, October, and November, with a report to be issued early next year. So if there are any recommendations that require budgetary items, that we would have it as we did the budgetary process. It was provided for 2023 in May of 2024. That's a little late because our budget's already done. So I'll make the motion and we can discuss it. Be it resolved to authorize the mayor to sign the proposal for Lake Management Services Water Quality Add-on in the amount of $33,582. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Brooke. Any discussion by anybody or any comments? Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. All right, the next item is Solitude Lake Management. Before we had problems with Tuxedo Lake, we had algae growth in Pond 3, as trustee Turner can attest to. And we reacted. We got Solitude Lake Management to come in and treat it. It took a week or so, but eventually the algae growth dissipated and the water cleared up. And that, I believe, was back in August. And this particular resolution is to approve payment for the service they provided in August. So I'll make the motion, be it resolved, to approve payment of Solitude Lake Management invoice PS 1092996 in the amount of $2,200 $288. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Scherer. Okay.
Actually,
No,
Turner.
trustee Turner. It's his lake. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Halloween is coming and this year is a little bit unusual. We generally have celebration on Clubhouse Road and we invite everybody to Clubhouse Road. And the reason this year is a little different is because we ordinarily hold it the weekend before Halloween, which is in the middle of the week. However, Saturday night, October 26th, is the Haddon Tomes tournament at the Tuxedo Club. And we don't want people necessarily to be stuck between deciding whether to go to the dinner or to take their kids. So I'm offering an alternative of the following weekend, November 2nd. We don't have to decide this now, but we should at least let people know that there is a scheduling conflict on Saturday night, October 26th. And as an alternative, we would do it after Halloween on Saturday, November 2nd. So does anybody have any thoughts on that and on the conflict?
Oh, dear.
I mean, you know.
I know that there are other things planned for November 2nd, so that people in the in that that area have that, you know,
Other plans?
well, there's
I mean, I don't know. That's why I brought this up. I'm not aware of conflicts on November 2nd. What are you aware of? I mean, we can
Well,
discuss this.
I see Mrs. Newhouser is on the line. Would you mind speaking?
Oh,
Lily?
sure. Yeah. Any input we can get would be great.
Lily? Oh, maybe she walked away.
Well, she's on mute, so.
Well, it's just it's her son's wedding, I think.
Oh,
She lives in that neighborhood.
yeah, she does. She lives right up on
So-
on Stable Road. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, who do we generally contact, John? Do you know?
How does this
I
usually
don't really
work?
remember. Elizabeth, do you know who we reach out to schedule a Clubhouse Road event? Anybody know?
You mean with Halloween?
Yeah, we're talking about Halloween. I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
have
don't
to
think we-
agree.
Right, yeah, we just, as far as I know, the board just, they've never had an issue where there was a conflict before, in my time anyway, and they just picked a date and then let the police know. That's as far as I know. Maybe something I
TPFYI
wasn't
may have
aware
a
of.
history. Ask
Yeah,
TPFYI.
they have their.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Meg or
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey guys, I don't know who you would contact to change it, but my brainchild of an idea is why don't we celebrate Halloween on Halloween? I mean, it's only the past couple of years we've bumped it to Saturday, and we did that to accommodate, you know, a group of kids at the time. You know, I think we had a large population of people who lived in the city, maybe weekenders who wanted to celebrate with park people. But I mean, I don't know, I'm a year-round resident. I just always grew up celebrating Halloween on Halloween, and I always, you know, I don't know, I don't really have a whole lot of skin in that game anymore, but
Well,
just
let me
might make sense.
respond to that by saying I was present with Sheila for the last Halloween and it was very well attended. It was a Saturday night. The kids had a great time and you know, it just seemed to go very, very well last October. So scheduling it for a weekday may create some problems. Why don't we do this? Why, instead of the board just deciding without any input from people on Clubhouse Road, let me reach out to a couple of the residents who are active on Clubhouse Road, ask them what they would like to do, ask them to contact their neighbors, and then I'll report back to everybody. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
That
Okay.
sounds
Sounds
great.
great.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll table this.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just had a comment.
Yeah.
My name's James Carter. I live on Clubhouse Road.
Okay.
This is my first year with the Halloween event, but I do understand it's quite a deal and quite the responsibility of the residents on that street to make that event special. So that's just something to consider with moving into a weekday. You might have less availability with residents on that street. And just obviously the more notice, the better. If there's gonna be a date.
Sure. All right, thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll reach out and we'll try to figure something out. And we'll table that for tonight.
I'll ask around.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks.
Mr. Carter.
That would
And
be
you
helpful.
take my card on the way out. It's on the secretary's desk, and you can call me with whatever you determine would be appropriate.
We have gotten a lot of calls about people who come in on the weekends, so
Yeah.
they would, their kids would like to participate.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. All right. We're moving right along here. It's 8 o'clock. And the next item is the audit of claims.
Can I just, I'm sorry. Oops, I'm sorry, TPFYI, the hand is still up. I'm not sure if that's an
Oh.
accident or not.
Meg, do you have anything else you want to add on this subject?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Audit of claims. Clerk Treasurer Dougherty noted for the record that the audit of claims for the general fund are in the amount of $257,246.72. Audit of claims for the sewer fund are in the amount of $86,626.85. Audit of claims for the water fund are in the amount of $39,441.41. I believe those, the signature pages were in front of us, and the three of us have signed them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we can move on to budget transfers.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, we're transferring $12,000 out of the mayor personal services, which we have to park there because that's what
Right.
Jared says we have to do. Even though everybody knows I don't take a salary, and we're gonna apply that to general government support. And that's for the purpose of paying Association Reserves their fee for doing the capital planning study. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, great. All right, now we move to something, Mr. Carter called executive session, which is a private session, and I'm gonna be it resolved that the Board of Trustees leave the public meeting and enter into executive session at,
You want to ask any has public comments? before
Yeah,
that?
there might be somebody online.
oh, well, we usually come back out for public comments, but that's a good suggestion. Anybody, any of the public want to speak on anything at all? Second opportunity? Any hands up? Anybody got anything they want to say that they heard about or just want to just add?
Oh, I think we're good.
Okay, all
Any
right.
more another comment? No?
No,
You're good?
great, okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees leave the public meeting and enter into executive session at 8:08 PM to discuss matters that relate to proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, pending and potential civil litigation involving the village, matters that relate to a current or future investigation or prosecution of a criminal offense, and to solicit and receive legal advice from the village attorney. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, folks, turn off the Zoom and let's talk. Let me get my list.
So can I just ask a
We still
question?
have
Can you
people
hear me?
on.
Bear with me.
Yeah. let me close the
Can
door.
you hear me better now? Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah,
You're a
we can
little,
hear
you're a
you.
little low right now.
Still a little muffled.
A little muffled?
Wow. I can hear her great. I've always been able to hear
Have to
you.
let Jedediah back in. I think he got suspended.
No, I don't-
It's them, not you, Elizabeth.
Thank you,
Stay-
Josh.
Stay strong.
Okay. Elizabeth, did you provide me with that list?
Hold on, we're waiting to get Jed back in.
So,
We got people.
okay.
So.
They're back in.
Just make sure. Yes, everybody's on.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out. We have two resolutions arising from executive session. The first one is as follows: be it resolved that the Board of Trustees agrees to accept the offer of settlement by the Hong family on Summit Road in the sum of $3,278.58 in accordance satisfaction of their outstanding water and sewer bills. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And
that's
that was,
unanimous.
that was Michelle?
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
fine.
Thank you.
Then we have a second resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees agrees to accept the settlement offer of Ted Wang, who lives on Stable Road, with respect to an outstanding balance for village services provided to his property in the amount of $804. For 50% of that amount, the payment to be made by Mr. Yang of $402 in full satisfaction. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. I now make a motion. Hold on. Nothing else? Okay. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees adjourn the public meeting at 9:17 PM. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Brooke. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thanks, folks. All done.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Meeting
Before
adjourned.
you leave, is Jedediah still there or did he cut out?
Meeting adjourned
I
at
think he's
9:15.
gone.
Oh, we have an issue with a quorum on October 18th.
Okay.
October, the next October meeting. The deputy mayor is going to be in Europe and Trustee Brooke is going to be out of town. Are you going to be available to come in person?
I don't think it's the 18th. It must be
No,
the
it's not the
16th.
18th, it's 16th.
16.
Will you be available?
It's the 16th.
I will make myself available. How does that
Okay.
sound?
That's great. And we need Jedediah.
We'll check Jedediah.
We have to check Jedediah. And the last thing is, the deputy mayor wants a special meeting to discuss bonding for capital improvements.
And also the other items, Josh, that we had from capital planning, the dam repair and the Westlake Road repair.
Okay.
Is that okay?
When did you want it?
Are you available Friday, October 4th? Anytime during that day? We don't have to accommodate the public on this one. Do it during the day.
And I can be remote.
Well, we need 3 people here. Trustee Brooke can't attend. He's going to be out of town on the 4th.
Okay, so I think I should be able to.
We can pick a time that's good for you. Do you want it in the evening? No one's going to show up besides the trustee. When are you leaving, by the way? When can you, on Friday?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm the 6th, but
Okay,
that's
all right.
Sunday.
Friday evening, the 4th, you'll be back in the village?
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be the evening. I don't want to ruin people's evenings. Let's just set it on Friday for whatever works for people. I'll make it work.
Friday afternoon. I'll try to make it work too.
Oh, 4 o'clock?
The
Friday the 4th at 4 o'clock?
I'm fine with that.
Be okay.
Okay, all right.
We would have 3.
Yeah, that's all we need.
So
Yeah,
then
3.
Josh doesn't have to.
Yeah, if Trustee Brooke can make it, you don't even have to show up. Okay,
Great.
we'll figure it out.
Fantastic.
We'll tentatively Friday the 4th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye.